Howdy, and yeah, I had promised at 500 subscribers something special. I'm now almost at 1,000, so I'm going to call this the Mixed 500 1000 subscriber special. First things first, I'm JG certified. I'm the one seen in the video of the ATM playing Doom. Aussie50 was holding the camera. Yeah, so for those of you who have come across from seeing those videos, just tear down old stuff, new stuff, have a bit of fun with Aussie50, destroying stuff, going through stuff, and yeah, going to continue work on the ATM project. I've been talking to a family member about doing vinyl wrap for it. That should be pretty interesting. I'll finish that up. Wiring loom's been a bit of a challenge. I started with nothing and just rebuilt most of the loom from scratch. That has actually been quite tricky. Ditched the power supplies that are in it, put in new ones, run power from the computer core where I need it, and all that fun stuff. Anyway, yeah, almost 1,000 subscribers. I think I'm 5 or 6 off being at 1,000, so this can be a jointly 1,500 subscriber special. Now, I have actually managed to get what I wanted, spent most of Saturday cleaning it, so it was nice and shiny to do a video on. So yes, without further ado, I give you 1986 or 87 Amstrad PC 1640 HD30. I bought it not working, brought it home, found out that all that was wrong with it was a filter capacitor across the 12 volt rail on the hard drive had gone short, so I was thinking power supply. Turned out to be far simpler to fix. Got it going, all original parts, all original everything. It's got the EGA monitor, but I think something's gone slightly out of spec because when it's in EGA mode it overruns the sides of the screen, so you can't see what you're doing. I've just set it to think it's a low-res EGA monitor, or CGA, and it's been quite happy. Yes, anyway, I'll shift the camera and we'll boot it up. Righto, time to boot it. Hopefully you'll get to hear all those old school computery sounds from it. So we've got Windows on here. Well, it does not agree with this camera. Old-fashioned. All that, I'll come out. Windows. 640k of RAM. I forgot. Not just how much it is for these things to fit in that much memory. Sure some of you will remember the old X-Tree Pro. Old-fashioned X-Tree Pro. Oh, well, find my games here somewhere. There we go. Ah, I can't remember how to execute something. Ah, X. Yes, that's what I want to do. Oops. Probably shouldn't run that through Xtree. Let's run it through DOS. Ah, XT layout keyboard. Ah, it's happier now. No, I'm pretty sure this had a demo. Yes, it does. We'll just return to demo. Now, it's been 20 years since I've seen the game take its time loading. I'm so used to fast machines now. I forgot this game used to take a little while to load levels. Anyway, I will go through some of the more technical bits of this machine now. It's, yeah, 26 at least years old and still running like it was brand new. Now, one of the oddities with our friend here is it has an XT layout keyboard, not an AT layout keyboard. So, for those who are used to an AT layout keyboard, no, everyone who uses a computer now, it's slightly different. An XT keyboard doesn't have any arrow keys. Caps lock is here, so there's none of that center stuff. Arrows are just done here. Numlock, scroll lock are here. Break is under scroll lock. There's no pause key. Print screen is here. You got backspace and delete here. It says delete forward. Never figured that one out. Control and Alt are where you'd expect caps lock, and the function keys are down the left-hand edge. So a few differences between the XT and AT keyboards is the microprocessor or microcontroller used for the keyboard is different. That's why old AT plug keyboards have an XT-AT mode switch on them. You tell it if it's been connected to an XT or an AT, so the keyboard knows to behave differently. And the scan codes generated by the keyboard itself and sent to the keyboard controller are slightly different. Yeah, so it's only the 74 keys, I think. I'm not about to count them. I had the crazy idea at 11 o'clock on Saturday night to just pop all the keycaps off and clean them. That wouldn't take me too long. 3 hours later, I seriously regretted the idea. The Amstrad mouse, which I'll shift into position, doesn't register as a serial mouse. It's a custom type of mouse. It's a little bit odd, but it's the way these were back then. There was no real standard to stick to. Alright, so now I will shut this computer down and we will pull it apart. Now, to try something new with this, I'm actually going to disassemble it from behind the computer. That way I'm not interfering with your visibility of what I'm doing. So, we'll go sideways. Now, one of the cool things with the Amstrad was that was all you had to do to get to the rear 3 slots. It made it really easy to access the internals of the system. And add expansion cards. It's got 3 standard 8-bit slots at the back here. One here is taken up by a standard game port controller card. Non-volatile RAM was done by 4 AA batteries. I wish modern computers did it that way. It is awesome. When it says changed batteries, you just chuck 4 AA's in it and call it a day. Right, I'll get this card out. The Amstrad doesn't have any standard joystick ports. They're being not as standard at the time. On the rear of the keyboard is a 9-pin connector, which used the standard at the time, I think it's Commodore 64 type joystick, I believe. Not 100% sure on that. Smells like vintage tech. Yeah. Get high off that stuff. Run this thing for long enough and the whole house will smell like vintage tech. I wouldn't argue with that. I actually found this stuff recently called Retro Bright. Gets rid of this yellowing that happens to older hardware over time as one of the ingredients of ABS plastic starts to leak out, which would let me turn the whole computer back to its original white. If any of my subscribers or anyone viewing the video happens to know if it's worth doing, let me know, because I'm seriously starting to consider retro brighting this to get back that beautiful white sheen it would have had brand new out of the factory. This little metal. There's one bit that's painful with disassembling this is that one little metal tab. Now, I'll just stand this out of the way because I'm not horribly keen on resetting all my configuration if I can avoid it. Right, so hard drive here, floppy drive here. This is the hard drive controller. Now in my hard drive teardown video, not the ST504 one, the earlier one, the SATA drive I ripped apart, I believe I explained the difference between ATA or IDE as you know it and XTA, which is the XT IDE, 8-bit IDE. This is an 8-bit IDE controller. You know what, I'll just keep it out. So this is an 8-bit IDE controller. A couple of differences in normal IDE is 8-bit, not 16-bit. And this is the BIOS ROM for the hard drive controller. It basically ties this disk to that controller. There's really no in-between on it all. So you basically consider the drive and the controller from this era stuff as a matched set. Don't separate them or you probably never get it working again. And if you hook this to a standard IDE controller, at best you'll get nothing. At worst you'll kill it painfully. I'll remove the front faceplate. Oh, that makes horrible noises when it comes off. So we'll get the faceplate off. I'll just put that aside. Disconnect the hard drive's power. I'll pull out the disc. Now, having taken this apart about 10 times already, it really isn't anything overly difficult. They were built back then that the average layperson could in fact pull their computer apart if they really had to. They were built really simply back in this day. And I can't say I don't miss it. I mean, Gramps, I have to get Gramps out and pull him apart and go through him from a technical detail, but he's got one of those cases with a button on each side of the case. You press the buttons and the lid opens. I mean, how much simpler could it get than that? No screws to hold the case together. That was back when, you know, you weren't picking through 3,000 warranty void labels just to turn it on. And these days I'm pretty sure the second you plug in that power supply, you voided some sort of warranty or another. So, that should be the last screw. I can pull the hard drive out. Pretty sure more screws hold the lid on my computer than hold this one together. Right, so we'll take the hard drive out of its retaining bracket. Remove all the metal outside to get to the gooey vintage goodness on the inside. And there we have it. Western Digital, one of their first. So, 30 megabyte Western Digital hard drive. Now you'll notice here is a defect table. I mentioned that in the video I did on the ST504 disk. This defect table, however, has more than one defect. That's actually about normal for a hard drive of this vintage. Stepper motor control. Now the only difference between this and an ST504 is it's XT IDE instead of ST504 interface, funnily enough. Yeah, so fairly classic. Western Digital, one of the first they made back when they made discs that didn't die every 30 seconds. I'll remove the floppy drive next. So the other normal option for these Amstrads, and the more common one you see, is a pair of 360k drives. This actually had a hard drive and a 360k drive. It's a little bit different. I'll just shift all that out of the way. And we will get down in past this floppy drive. Just a standard 360k unit. I plan to actually use 360k discs to put software on here. Gramps has a 5¼ inch drive as well. I just have to get my hands on some 360k discs as I don't have any. I've got some 1.2 meg discs, but they don't format down to 360k because the material used to make the disc itself is actually different between 360k and 1.2 meg discs, unlike 3.5 inch discs. I won't take that one out of its bracket, it's looking quite happy and home in there. Now the tabs make it very, I don't know if I'll be able to get that off the... no, that's all in the way. Oh, I don't want to mess with that. I don't want to... it doesn't come off either. Okay, so I'll just point out things that I can see through here. So we got some Amstrad chips here. That's the EGA ROM, so for EGA graphics, it's the ROM chip for that. These two I believe are the BIOS ROM. They used to have a high word and a low word chip. I can't remember whether it was bitness or the fact that you couldn't fit the whole BIOS on one chip, but the XT was exactly the same, and the IBM PC. Hiding under here is the main processor, an 8086, so it's the 16-bit chip, not the crippled 8-bit 8088, because IBM were cheap when they designed the PC, so they went, we'll shove the cheap 8-bit bus chip in there and call it a day. This has the full 16-bit 8086, so 16-bit data and address buses. Socket here for an 8087 maths processor. The funny thing with the 8086 on here is it's made by AMD. It's one of AMD's early chips. I have to change it though. I need to try and find myself an NEC V30. Windows 3 will run in black and white mode with an 8086, but it will not run the graphics EGA, the color EGA driver. It just dies. You have to put a V30 in. Finding a V30 for under $150, however, is proving to be a challenge. This is also back when things were very nicely shielded. Not much is shielded like this these days. This computer won't interrupt your television viewing if you're anywhere with analog. Anyway, we'll put it back together, and I'll put the camera up once it's back together nice and close, and boot it up so you can hear that old retro hard drivey goodness. So I'm sure there's some people out there who want to listen to that old-fashioned stepper motor noise that they make. At least these are really simple to put together. Spend as much time putting this together as you spend putting a heatsink on a modern machine. Built to last back then too. I don't see my i7 lasting 26 years. I'm pretty sure even if I held onto it for that long, it would be pretty dead long before 26 years went out. I'm sure that there would be bits of power supply everywhere the first time I tried to use it. Which really is sad that we don't manufacture things to last like we used to. Pretty sure the Amstrad engineers fully expected their machines to last this long. Oh, I can't get the cable through. This is actually really fiddly to do. Nothing like a bit of fun reassembly. Sorry about the large quiet period there. Just dealing with the fiddliness of getting that disc into its bracket. So hopefully I will be able to do more retro computer teardowns and modern teardowns and all that fun stuff. I certainly know at the moment, especially for Weekend Project, the ATM will be taking a fairly high priority, as we would like to finish it. And I'm sure all you guys would like us to finish it too, and see how it comes out in the end. But hopefully we will be vinyl wrapping it, make it look less like an ATM, and more like an awesome Doom arcade machine. I'll be modifying up a copy of a Doom engine to work with a coin acceptor. So it really will be, put in a buck and play till you die. Found myself the specifications for the printer in it, so I'll be able to print level statistics at the end of the levels, and when you die, what level you are at, how many bad guys you've killed since the start, all the funky stuff. So I have a specification for the printer that tells me how to tell it to make stuff come out, which is pretty cool, really. So that one will be a fairly interesting little project to finish. Hopefully, if any more articles come out, they get the difference between Aussie 50 and myself. I am most certainly not Aussie 50, and I wouldn't ever claim to be. I'm JG certified. Aussie 50 is Aussie 50. Between us, we're epic. Or so I think. So say me. This is always the fiddly part. Oh, something's not... I think I've got a cable sitting somewhere. Oh no. There we go. It's just being a bit fiddly, she was. There. Treat her right and she'll last forever. Whoops. Case in point. Don't go randomly dropping screws. Another downside of this camera, will only record up to 10 minutes of video in one shot. Have to stop and start it again. Right, that's as difficult as it is to disassemble and reassemble. I love technology from back then, it's just so well built. Right, it's all back together now. In the time it took me to do what I have now gotten my shiny little computer here to do, I'm now up to 997 subscribers. I consider that close enough to 1,000. My little computer here has something to say about that. As long as it works. I love this old technology, it's so much fun. If a little on the slow side. And there you go. Computer has something to say, and so do I. Thank you. I'll take the camera closer so you can see what it's saying, and for an ending to the video, for those who really want to hear that old school hard disk noise, I'm going to put the camera, it won't focus on anything, but I'm going to put it right beside disk and then do a disk intensive operation. Anyway, from me making noise on the camera perspective, thanks for watching, and thank you for subscribing.